Hello, and welcome to ETA 101. My name is Henry Kathman. I'm currently a high school English teacher at North High School and a board member of the Evansville Teachers Association, the union for teachers and other educators located in the EVSC, the Evansville Vanderburgh School Corporation. As the name implies, this series is going to be an introductory overview of different things the ETA does, as well as wider topics related to public education. And for our first episode of this series, we are going to be starting basic. Like, really basic. Today, I want to answer a question that plenty of people have asked us. What even is a union? For some, you may have certain preconceptions of what a union is. Maybe you've seen stories about different companies like Starbucks and Amazon fighting against workers unionizing. You might remember when film unions like the Screen Actors Guild or the Writers Guild halted the productions of different movies and TV shows in 2023. Or maybe you've seen different teachers wear red on Wednesday and know it has something to do with teaching jobs. As important as stuff like this are going to be to the story of unions, these kinds of public displays are just a sliver of what unions do. So let's back up to the basic definition of a union. Sometime in the ancient past, a bunch of people were doing the same job in their community. Maybe they all helped build boats, made pots, or baked bread. Whatever the job was, those different people got together to decide how everyone doing that job ought to be treated, how long they worked, how much of a thing they could reasonably produce, and how they should be compensated. This simplifies a lot of history, but that process of getting together to answer those kinds of basic questions is the birthplace of labor unions. While plenty of things in the world have gone on to change since then, fundamentally, unions still work to answer that same question. How should people doing the same job be treated? In the United States, people have been seeking those answers for much of the country's history. In 1786, only 3 years after the end of the American Revolution, newspaper printers in Philadelphia learned that their wages were going to be reduced, causing them to ask the question, is this how people like us should be treated? The answer was a resounding no. And from there, the United States had its first recorded workers' strike, as these printers demanded that they be paid $6 a week. Though as the world progressed through the 19th century, the question of how should people doing the same job be treated changed as jobs changed with the Industrial Revolution. Suddenly, instead of getting your clothes and pots from someone that lived down the street from you, it was a lot easier to have that stuff made in a central location, like a factory. While there are plenty of benefits and drawbacks to discuss with this transition, the key change in regard to our central question is how, out of the blue, instead of most workers being people who made their money by creating and selling a thing themselves, most workers then and now make their money by making a thing for someone else to sell. Because these workers don't have access or knowledge to certain specifics of selling the thing, it became a lot easier for those someone else's to screw over people working for them. Workers would spend an unhealthy amount of time at their jobs. They might be placed in unsafe working conditions that resulted in their coworkers being injured or killed. Some of those workers would have even been children that couldn't advocate for themselves as easily, all the while being paid wages that weren't in line with what these jobs expected of them. Amidst these problems, workers across the country would gather and once again ask the question, is this how people like us should be treated? Once again, the answer would be no, and the United States would see a massive rise in unions being formed going into the 20th century, from the United Mine Workers threatening to shut down coal supplies for major cities in 1902 so they wouldn't have to work a 10-hour shift anymore, the Women's Trade Union League demanding safer workplaces after a fire at the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory killed 146 women in 1911, to workers across the country pushing for policies brought about by the New Deal to provide relief from the Great Depression. Labor unions would continually call for people getting fair treatment at their jobs, even as union membership fell nationwide after the 1950s. In recent years, with income inequality continuing to rise and the world becoming less stable with climate change, more people are starting to ask, how should people doing the same job be treated? As union activity in the United States continues to rise after 2016, unions like the ETA work to provide answers to that question and take actions to make those answers a reality. To do this, unions like the ETA organize members to maintain or improve working conditions. In the ETA's case, we work to empower teachers to provide access to high-quality education for all students. We do this by bargaining for better wages and job benefits with the EVSE during contract negotiations, advocating for improvements in school policies for students and teachers with the school board and the state government, and collaborating with local students and parents to create the best outcomes for our students. Speaking for myself, the reason I'm a part of a union like ETA is because I also look at the modern world and all of its problems and also ask, is this how people like us should be treated? With growing class sizes, stagnating wages, rising anti-intellectualism, and increasingly unsustainable workloads, I believe the answer is no. And the nearly 700 members of the ETA agree with me. Part of the reason people have organized unions throughout history is that we have time and time again seen various jobs become better for all involved through these efforts. More often than not, those efforts require too much time and energy for a single person to handle, but are made achievable when enough people work together to answer the question, how should people doing the same job be treated? In the coming episodes of this series, we will be going into more detail about what this entails specifically, but I want to keep that central question in mind, because as the history of organized labor has shown, everyone deserves to be treated fairly at their job, and we should always be ready to ask ourselves, is this how people should be treated? Until next episode, thank you for listening. Best wishes.